From a crystal fortress in the Arctic, it's the IGN Digigods. Please welcome two men who already believe a man can fly, Wade Major and Mark Kaiser.
I don't know if a man can fly, but I know Mark Kaiser cannot. Corey, go ahead. Tell us what longtime listener of ours, go ahead and sent that in.
That was written, in part, by Eric Altieri. Except for the end, where I had to put in Wade Major and Mark Kaiser.
That's okay. I'm sitting here alone in front of the mic because Mark is in his, I don't know, do you call those pajamas? What are those? Pajamas. They're in pajamas. Pajamas, tomato.
I'm at the age now where I can walk around in my pajamas.
And you are wallowing in illegality. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, I want to be so old, right, that I can walk around in like a unicolored tracksuit, right? You know, like these old guys, they walk around in like these big red tracksuits. They don't care.
No, they go to the farmer's market and they buy whatever they want, and they wear what they want.
Yep.
Yeah, I know.
I want to get to that place in my life.
I hear you.
I'm almost there.
I know you are. Well, you know what? Let's start off. We did last week. We did the giveaway right at the top of the show. We got another giveaway. We're going to do our giveaway right at the top.
Another giveaway?
Another
we did a giveaway last week.
I know.
We're being too generous.
So these have to get into us. These emails have to get into us. Gods@digigods.com. Gods@digigods.com. These emails have to get into us by Friday the 17th. So time, date, stamp, Friday the 17th. We'll pick 3 winners. And this also comes to us from the good people at ARC Entertainment, same as last week. Fascinating because the issue last week, it was a Civil War thing with the Confederate flag on the cover. It's almost like they read our minds and they're trying to make some kind of strange amends. The film this time is Freedom with Cuba Gooding Jr. and William Sadler. And actually, a true story here. It's fascinating, to be honest. And it's one of the best things that Cuba Gooding Jr. has done in a long time. And this thing isn't getting a theatrical release, and it should. Probably should have gotten at least a small release of some kind. It's actually, he's really, really good. And I'd forgotten, with all the crud that he's been doing in the last decade, how good he actually can be. And there's some other really good sporting performances in there too. David Raish shows up again, who was like the only recognizable face in United 93. He was always great. Television sledgehammer, fantastic actor. In this one. Cuba Gooding Jr. plays Samuel Woodward, who in 1956, pre-Civil War, decides to escape the plantation where he's a slave and try to get to Canada on the Underground Railroad. And you intercut this story with one that happens about a century earlier, dealing with Captain John Newton, which is a story that deals with a slave ship, and I won't give that story away. If you know the history, you know sort of how that intertwines, but it's really interesting how the two things connect. It's a smartly written film, very nicely done. Tim Che wrote it. Peter Cousins, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, Cousens, directed it. Solid film. And this comes from the company Heritage Films, and it's being released on DVD by ARC Entertainment. And we're giving away 3 copies of it. So go ahead and send us an email, Freedom in the subject line, and then your name and your address in the body of the email. And send it to gods@digigods.com. 3 lucky people will receive this. We'll pick the names as long as it gets to us by the 17th, July 17th. And the movie is Freedom. Thank you, ARC. Lovely, lovely little gift for our listeners.
Our listeners are worth every gift.
Yes, they are. All right, Mark. You know what? I've got Kid Vid. Do you want to just keep pajama-ing while I do a round of Kid Vid?
I don't know what pajama-ing is, but whatever it is, I'd rather do that than hear about Kid Vids, because I don't have kids.
Well, I do. I have a daughter. I have a 2-year-old daughter, as anybody who listens to the show regularly knows. So we are always interested in seeing what she likes and what she doesn't like. And so far, she just likes British stuff, Peppa Pig and Wallace and Gromit, and oddly enough, Downton Abbey, which in our house is called Dobby Abbey. We're still not clear on what she understands about Downton Abbey, but she likes it. That's all that matters. Scholastic Storybook Treasures. Anybody who doesn't have kids, you can fast forward through the show. But Scholastic Storybook Treasures releases a lot of great stuff, really beautifully animated, and it's really smart for kids, and they pay attention. That's the most important thing. Kids pay attention to this stuff. This is called I Want My Hat Back and More Happy Stories. And it comes with a read-along DVD. And kids pay attention to this stuff. It's amazing. I always enjoy the animation, but it isn't until you have a kid and you put it in and you go, wow, she's paying attention. She's not ignoring it and just kind of dividing her attention. It's very engaging. Stories here, I Want My Hat Back, The Lucky Ducklings, The Happy Lion, and The Happy Owls, all beautifully animated and illustrated. That's a winner. All that Scholastic stuff's always a winner. The Magic School Bus Season 3, also a Scholastic release. I'm not, I'm intermittently lukewarm on this. It's a little beyond my daughter at this point because she's not riding a school bus. She doesn't really quite fully get it. But Pound Puppies is always fun. Kids love dogs. And nothing deep here, nothing terribly educational. This is from Shout Kids via Hasbro. Or Hasbro via Shout Kids, Shout Factory's kid line. Cute series. There are 5 episodes on this one, and if it's innocuous and it's not loud and offensive, it's on the upper scale. What is loud and offensive and totally annoying is the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles line, a series on Nickelodeon. This is Return to NYC. And I just find this thing really obnoxious, and it seems like every time they reinvent this series in any form at all, it gets even more obnoxious. It's like that's the only way that they feel they can reinvent the wheel. So this includes, a bunch of episodes, including the 2-parter Casey Jones versus the Underworld. It's loud. I can't quite deal with it. Also from Nickelodeon, bunch of Playdates. They do these things every once in a while. They throw a bunch of, Dora the Explorer stuff and Bubble Guppies and Go Diego and all their Team Umizoomi and all their stuff, the Blues Room. They kind of throw a potpourri of these things on there, so it's a little bit like having a Nickelodeon marathon that you just throw on to keep the kids busy for a few hours. I get it. Some of the more interesting animation, especially on Blu-ray for kids, is Monster High. This is Scarus. City of Frights. You get it? It's a pun. Scarus, City of Frights. Blu-ray and DVD combo set. These things are always very, very well animated. Obviously, it's not for all kids, not for everybody. It's, the animated equivalent of the Munsters or whatever you might have. These things are kind of growing on me a little bit. I don't watch them all the way through, but what I watch, I'm kind of starting to get it. So I guess it's an acclamation function. Frog Kingdom gets the Dove family approved seal of approval thing. This is better than expected animation. This is from Lionsgate. Grindstone is the company that did the animation. Actually looks a little bit like what Mark over there in the other room as you're slouching around. What was the name of the company that was originally another company that did Ants before DreamWorks Animation? They became DreamWorks Animation. TMI, TZI, TM something. What was it called?
TZI. What are you talking about? No, you're talking about Willis.
It was the animation company. It was the Pixar competitor that the DreamWorks then absorbed. Well, anyway, before they became DreamWorks Animation, the work they were doing on movies like Ants, that's kind of what this looks like. So this feels like something in the works. Anyway, it's like A Bug's Life, except that you're in the world of frogs, and some decent voice work here by people like Cameron Dallas and Keith David, who's always great. So not terrible, not terrible. So that's Frog Kingdom. Some nascent talent there. PBS Kids gives us some interesting stuff. Caillou is for some reason considered hugely educational and actually holds people's attention. And my daughter watches it. We're still trying to figure out all kinds of things, like why Caillou's bald and why there's little cloudy borders around the picture. And, the usual answer that we come up with is it's Canadian. No one really understands the Canadians. They just do things. So, it's all very educational. Caillou makes a meal and the untidy classroom, and you learn something in every single one of them, and it makes me feel like I never grew up. Also from PBS Kids, Wild Kratts Super Sprinters, the Wild Kratts series, not one of my favorites. I get it. It's a whole wild animal thing. It's a little bit like Dinosaur Train. They try to combine animation with something educational and ecological, and that's fair enough. It's just not my speed. And I'm getting close here, Mark. You might want to get all kind of perched because we're going to be jumping into something better in a second. Littlest Pet Shop, pause for applause. Littlest Pet Shop has a following. Cute animation, cute pets, nothing particularly deep. There are 5 episodes of this ongoing series here. A couple more interesting Scholastic titles that combine things. This is Scholastic Storybook Treasures, Scaredy Squirrel and Bink and Golly double feature. Both of them recommended. There are 4 things here. There's Scaredy Squirrel. Scaredy Squirrel makes a friend. And then Bink and Golly 2 for 1. All of it really first rate. And then also from Scholastic Storybook Treasures is 20 Back-to-School Tales. This is fantastic. A lot of classics on here that have been previously released, like Chicka Chicka Boom Boom. And Mark, you've never read Chicka Chicka Boom Boom, the book, have you? Yeah, it's great. It's great. It is. My daughter loves it. And the animated, it's even better. You also get the gym teacher from the Black Lagoon, Crazy Hair Day, the teacher from the Black Lagoon, the librarian from the Black Lagoon, Miss Nelson has a field day, Miss Nelson is back. A lot of really fun stuff here. So, and How Do Dinosaurs Go to School, and Splat the Cat, 2 previous releases that are great. And then Curious George, Back to the Jungle 3, which is a new Curious George movie. Didn't really do much for me. Not into Curious George. Angela Bassett, John Goodman doing voice talent. It's probably the only interesting thing about it. A needless Tom and Jerry original movie called Spy Quest, in which they seem to abandon everything that has ever defined Tom and Jerry. I would really like for the people at Warner Brothers to just go back to the drawing board and give us Tom and Jerry, not as like an adventure duo, but as just a cat and a mouse who chase each other around and do antics. We don't need to be like playing Iron Man and Avengers with Tom and Jerry and Spy Kids. It's not what they were meant to do. It's too much. And then finally, My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic. Mark and I are not bronies, but we appreciate the bronies on some level. At least we pretend to. This is My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic, Cutie Mark Quests. And I'm sure there are a lot of grown men that will just be going nuts for this. But it's made for little girls. Let's try to limit it to little girls for the time being.
Is that it for KidVid?
That's it for KidVid, Mark.
Yeah, I can return.
All right. Let's talk about real stuff.
Whoa, wait. We got a big Criterion this week. Whoa.
We got lots of Criterion. I got some foreign in my hand. But what do you...
What do you mean you got some foreign in your hand?
Oh, well,
Because that's just weird.
What do we got?
We got the Black Stallion Wade from Carol Ballard.
He was a UCLA grad. Carol Ballard went to UCLA.
What?
I'm just saying.
Who?
We need all... We gotta brag about all our UCLA people.
Okay, name 3 UCLA people who you still talk to this day.
Nobody? You mean people who've actually made things?
Nobody.
Yeah, well...
Anyway, Black Stallion's classic. It's from 1979. It's based on the children's novel. And it's about this kid shipwrecked on an island, and he finds an Arabian stallion, and they become friends.
Did you know that Zooey Deschanel's dad was the cinematographer on this?
Wuggles? Caleb Deschanel?
It's funny to refer. It's like now he's known as Zooey Deschanel's dad. It's weird.
Aw.
The world changes.
This was, of course, this is from Zoetrope Studios. Francis Ford Coppola's dearly beloved, long, crushed into oblivion.
I know.
Film studio.
Could have worked.
That's true. Which explains why there's a Carmine Coppola score, by the way. Anyway, this is great. It's so beautifully shot by that guy who's Zooey Deschanel's dad. And it's classic, and it's long overdue for the Criterion Collection. I love this film. It's lyrical and beautiful, and it's just so wonderful. It's a great film. And, of course, Criterion knocks it out of the park. They have 5 short films by Carol Ballard with a new introduction from Carol Ballard, a new interview with Caleb Deschanel, which, of course, is fantastic, who Wade and I have seen in person talking about the right stuff. That's
Totally.
good. New 4K digital transfer looks fantastic. And, of course, there's the usual Criterion essay. So there you go. Black Stallion on Criterion, a total must, at least a must rent, and long overdue.
Sweet. We also have a couple of foreign Criterions, and we'll talk about some foreign films here in a second after we talk about some new movies as well. But the most interesting one of these, one is a heralded classic, and one is very little known but very important. Here Is Your Life. Beautiful new Blu-ray of the film that began the directing career of Jan Troell, the legendary Swedish director of The Emigrants and many other fine films. Jan Troell possibly, I mean, after Ingmar Bergman, it's hard to say who's the most famous Swedish filmmaker. There's, Vilgot Sjöman and a few others.
Vilgot Sjöman?
Yeah. But Jan Troell probably is very close to being the number 2 all-time Swedish filmmaker, and this is a really good film. I wouldn't call it his best film, but it's a really good film, and as if it needs any real introduction, it gets an introduction by Mike Leigh, which I don't know how they got that. Anyway, they also have a conversation between Jan Troell and Peter Cowie, who does a lot of commentaries, and it's all excellent, absolutely excellent. They get new interviews as well with actor Eddie Axberg and co-screenwriter Bengt Forslund. A short film from 1965 that Troell made with Max von Sydow called Interlude in the Marshland. Wouldn't you love to have Max von Sydow in your short film?
Oh, can you imagine?
What a coup. And you know what? It's gorgeous. This is a whole new 2K restoration of this film, which is basically a coming-of-age film. I'd almost say this is like his 400 Blows. This is Jan Troell's Antoine Doinel film. And if you've seen any of the Antoine Doinel stuff from Truffaut, this just plugs really right into it. It's beautifully put together, and even though it's a debut film, it is really, really accomplished. And you just watch it and you just think, this guy's for real. This is a real filmmaker, and he's got a real point of view, and he's incredibly accomplished and skilled. The other new Criterion Blu-ray foreign language film is Alain René's Hiroshima Mon Amour, which should need no introduction. Alain René, of course, is one of the more kind of opaque filmmakers of all time, and
you can't see through him.
His films are just you just watch them and you just go, I don't know what you're trying. I know you're trying to say something really deep and provocative, but that just confuses the daylights out of me. But it sure is beautiful, and this is one of them. Although this may be a little bit more accessible than most. Certainly, it's the most accessible, I think, of his early '50s stuff. This is from 1959. It's 90 minutes, feels like 2 hours, but that's okay. It's all good. And Emmanuel Riva and Eiichi Okada are the stars. Emmanuel Riva, most recently, of course, was in the Oscar-winning Amour, and absolutely extraordinary in it. And didn't we give her a co? She won LAFCA's Best Actress.
She was a co thing.
Yeah, that's what I remember that. It was like
she wasn't there for the award.
Yeah, it's too bad. She's so good. Anyway, it's basically a story of a multiracial affair in post-war Hiroshima. And it's just stunningly photographed. And the structure is vintage René. It's kind of groovy flashback structure that's very, very hard to sort of wrap yourself around sometimes. But the film itself is just, it's one of those rare films that you can call a tone poem without actually being esoteric and pretentious. That's exactly what it is.
There's no way to avoid being esoteric and pretentious when you say tone poem.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Putting it out there.
Could I say it's the feel-good movie of the year? The feel-good movie of 1959? The feel-good post-nuclear movie of 1959?
Like Testament.
There you go. That's exactly it. All right, and actually, as long as we're on foreign, let me just make mention of a couple other ones, because we do have, why not? I'll segue over into foreign, and then we'll get into new movies. We have a great release here from Film Movement. Film Movement has not been on the Blu-ray bandwagon of late, but they got on their new Film Movement Classics line has delivered a killer killer release, and this is a must-have for any foreign language film nut. Pierre Richard, one of the great French comedic talents of all time, co-stars along with Jean Rochefort, Bernard Blier, the father of Bertrand Blier, in the classic, amazing The Tall Blonde Man with One Black Shoe by director Yves Robert. This is a fantastic, legendary film from 1972. It's one of the best things that Pierre Richard ever did, even though he's not in it with Gerard Depardieu. And it's just wonderful. It's absolutely one of the best farces you will ever see. It is a tour de force performance and one of the best French films, I think, of the 70s. And it's out on Blu-ray, and it looks great. It's a 2K transfer, fully restored. Film Movement totally knocks it out of the park. And this classics line has a lot of stuff lined up. So Film Movement, who has always been one of our favorite companies, has a lot of cool stuff lined up. And then the one other, two other. I got two other foreign language Blu-rays I'm going to make mention of. The other one is, this next one is Alexei German, the Russian director, Alexei German's Hard to Be a God. This comes to us from Kino Lorber, and it is rough and brutal. And if you're familiar with German's films, he passed away just a few years ago, and he left a filmography that is powerful and brutal. He's kind of like a cross between Tarkovsky and Tarkovsky and Werner Herzog. He's like between the two, and this is a truly amazing, powerful science fiction film that is very much in the vein of kind of the like Tarkovsky sci-fi stuff, based on the novel by the same guy who wrote Stalker, and it's basically a science fiction film that takes place in a medieval environment. And I'll give you no more about it, but it's a really incredible allegory, and that is called Hard to Be a God by Alexei German. And then the last one was made this last year. This swept awards all over Europe. This swept all the French awards, the French Oscars, the Césars, and it is Abderrahmane Sissako's Timbuktu. Sissako is sort of the guy who's bringing African cinema to the fore now. And this is all about the travails of a small village and the effect that Islamic fundamentalism has, particularly on the women in this village. It is just absolutely devastating. It is powerful. It is poetic. It is beautifully made. And this is also from Cohen and E1. And it is a beautiful Blu-ray in French and Arabic, and just an incredibly powerful and beautifully shot film. Timbuktu, not to be missed. Certainly one of the best films of last year.
Well, wait, I can't say the same thing for Goodbye to All That. However, it is a charming little film that kind of won me over. It was directed by the same guy who wrote Junebug. This is his first film. It's all about the sexual travails of married and single people in their 30s. So it's a contemporary comedy, and it's got a decent cast, including Heather Graham, who back in the day was so delicious.
Oh.
Now she's a little bit older, but she still kept her looks. I got to tell you, pretty ageless. Amy Sedaris is in this too. Anyway, you know what? I liked it. I thought it was kind of a sweet, kind of minor key little comedy. Means well. It's got some funny lines. It's pretty, it's pretty honest about relationships and pretty hard on its characters. But I thought it was kind of a nice little movie. It was charming, won me over. Seemed a little cliched at the beginning, as this guy kind of gets a divorce, and then he enters the single scene, and what's going to happen to him, and who's what he'll start bed hopping and whatnot. But it kind of won me over. It's a little bit like it's a little bit like a Duplass film in that it has a certain shaggy dog, low budget charm to it. But it's good. I found it relatable and fun, and it's called Goodbye to All That. So if you're a 30-something hopping in and out of beds, maybe either via divorce or never been married, I'd go for it.
I like Paul Schneider. He's never really had that big career that he deserves. He just sort of bounces from movie to movie, but he's a great actor, and he's gonna pop at some point. So, Mark, if there's one movie in recent memory that you just thought, in the last few years, you just thought, that screams for a sequel, that demands a sequel, that movie leaves its story hanging, I cannot go on through life until I know how it ends. I need closure. There must be more. Life is not complete unless this franchise continues. what movie would that be?
See,
you know what? I can tell you. I'll tell you.
I already know what it is. 'Cause I saw it in the pile.
Yeah, well,
Blu-rays.
okay. That Paul Blart.
Oh my God! I
Paul
saw
Blart
this
Mall
movie.
Cop.
I saw Paul Blart.
Paul Blart 2?
I did.
It's brilliant.
It's the Godfather of Paul
No,
Blart.
actually, I'm sorry. I got that wrong for a moment. No, it's terrible. It's just, I mean, the first film wasn't any good. I prefer.
It took him a long time to make the sequel, by the way. It took him like
ridiculous.
7 years or
It's
something.
insane. Observe and Report is what this film should have been.
Oh, I love that
Observe
movie.
and Report is great.
It's awesome. I have that
It is
I have it on DVD.
That's a great movie.
But that's some twisted stuff that this could never
so
be.
Great. It's so great. I know this was, that's never going to get a sequel, and this one did. So anyway, Paul Blart, he gets a vacation and he goes to Vegas with his daughter, and you basically get Paul Blart Mall Cop, the Die Hard edition. That's essentially what this winds up being. You know what they sent us with this, Mark? I'm going to leave this with you.
They sent a Blart.
No, they sent a Persuasion. I want to show this to you because you need this. Oh, it's a Paul Blart mustache.
Who pitched that? Who came up with that idea? Let's give away a mustache. Gold. Give that guy a raise. First of all, is Paul Blart really known by his mustache? I mean, he's got a mustache, but is it like a Groucho glasses sort of? No,
it makes
just,
no sense to me.
I just don't get it.
Gag reel, deleted scenes, featurettes, nothing special here. There's a thing on the cat. It's silly. It's pointless. I don't know who greenlit this. Doesn't make any sense.
It was a no-brainer to greenlight because the film it cost nothing, and yet it was this worldwide hit for some reason.
Yeah,
and because it was just it was low-hanging fruit on the comedy tree.
I know.
That was great in Flyoverland, and and why not? I just can't believe it took him so long to do it.
It's weird.
Ex-Machina.
Uh-huh.
That's a movie.
Mm-hmm.
A very good movie. Now, one of my favorite writers is Alex Garland. He wrote 28 Days Later and
It's his
Sunshine.
directing debut?
And I love him, and I cannot wait for his directing debut. And we have it called Ex-Machina, and it is quite a provocative little sci-fi movie of ideas. What's his name? Isaac. You know what his name is. Oscar Isaac.
Yeah, I know.
Because he has two first names, man. It's not fair.
Yeah.
Anyway, Oscar Isaac plays a Steve Jobsian reclusive figure, living in this isolated compound, and he has developed this artificial intelligence played by the very attractive Alicia Vikander. And into this little isolated compound comes Domhnall Gleeson, who is the son of Brendan Gleeson. And he plays a kid who wins a competition to spend a week at the estate of Oscar Isaac / Steve Jobs. And there's a reason why Oscar Isaac wants him there. Everybody has like their own angle. Oscar Isaac has his angle. Domhnall has his angle, and it turns out that the robot, the android, the whatever, played by Alicia Vikander, she has her angle as well. This thing is it's very smart, and it's got a lot of interesting ideas. And it's a really sleek, cool-looking kind of chamber. It's almost like a chamber play in a way. There's really only 3 characters in it, and the whole thing takes place in one location.
It's pretty brilliant.
But it's really well done. The production design's great. It's kind of like slick. It's kind of slick and smooth, but yet also kind of creepy. That's also a function of the way it was shot and scored. So this is good. This is really good stuff. I have to say, I struggled with it a little bit because, in a way, the movie kind of wants to have its cake and eat it too, in the sense that this android is this beautiful woman, right? And she uses her in what I thought was a feminist statement about how this woman is trying to escape the influence of these 2 men coming at it from different angles.
Sure. Really,
it's about another woman who uses her sexuality to get what she wants.
Pretty
so
cool
it's
idea.
A little bit like, if it wants to be a feminist statement about a woman trying to escape the influence of men, yet at the same time she does that using sex, I feel like it's kind of trying to have its cake and eat it too. But it's really good. Oscar Isaac, that guy's having a bunch of moments. He's taken off. Most Violent Year was great.
Although it didn't get any Oscar nominations. I'm still blown away by that.
I know. So
I mean, it's just that still doesn't make sense to me. I'm still trying to figure that out.
Yeah. So Alex Garland, a guy so talented, he wrote this, he directed it. I think he's super smart, and I cannot wait for his next film, whatever that is. So there you go. Ex-Machina, very highly recommended by me.
You know what else is highly recommended? It Follows by director David Robert Mitchell, who's going to be a big deal, man. Look out for him. He's got a big career coming, as does young actress Micah Monroe, who stars in this. This was a little film that debuted up at Sundance or Slamdance. I forget which one it was. But this is what the Babadook should have been. And no disrespect meant to the Babadook. It's a good film. It just didn't scare me. This thing is, you're always looking for a suspense or horror or thriller film that does something that the others haven't done. That just comes at it from a different direction and, comes at it from outside the box and does something really cool. And this does it. And it is so innovatively conceptualized and just goes in places and in directions you never would have expected, and the direction is fantastic. Basically, it's about a young woman, teenager, who is just doing the teenage thing, and at a certain point, and for reasons I will not divulge, she starts to have this crippling feeling that she's being followed. And the way in which this develops and the way in which it's conveyed is brilliant. And it continues to show that you don't need a lot to turn very little into something big. And it's a terrific film. It's on Blu-ray with Ultraviolet. Handful of extras. There's a critic's commentary hosted by Scott Weinberg, which is sort of meh. And then a conversation with the composer. No director's commentary, which I find disappointing, but I still recommend it.
Agreed.
Yeah. Did you see it?
I did not see it. Wait.
Oh, it's good. It's good. All right, Mark. Let's see here. TV. Let's kill off some television real quickly here. I will do. Let me get this here. We'll make quick mention of yet another one of these Debbie Macomber deals. Cedar Cove continues to be kind of a thing on the Hallmark Channel. This is season 2 with Andie MacDowell. If you're familiar with Debbie Macomber's writing, it's very Lifetime. It's very Hallmark. It's very sweet and tender. And this is like Twin Peaks, except nobody gets killed and no one's weird. Everyone's just really sweet. And Cedar Cove is in Washington State, not Washington, D.C., otherwise it would be weird and scary. And it's all based on the books that Macomber wrote, and it's produced in Canada, as I understand it, and it's perfectly charming and innocuous, and I still love Andie MacDowell. I find she's ageless. WKRP in Cincinnati, greatest television comedy of the last 40 years, getting released in single-season sets now. This is the 3rd season, which is riotously funny, 21 episodes. And this show just never, ever, ever gets old. And the Batman television series also getting its individual season releases. This is the 2nd season, part 2. I still recommend you buy the whole thing in the one awesome boxed set with the little buttons on the box that play the theme song and things. This is just terrific. But if you have to start buying it individual seasons and halves of seasons, 2nd season part 2 is the one that you get the Green Hornet crossover in. And you also, unfortunately, get John Astin playing the Riddler at one point instead of Frank Gorshin, which just doesn't really work. But it's still a good season and a lot of great cameos. And then as long as we're on the Blu-ray train, Little House on the Prairie season 6 gets its remastered Blu-ray debut. Never a huge fan of this show originally, not that much of a fan of it after the fact, but it continues to have a following. Otherwise, they wouldn't be putting it out on Blu-ray. And a lot of people love this thing. So Laura Ingalls Wilder has a long reach. So that comes with all of the same kind of stuff that they have packed onto the previous releases, including the part 6 of their Little House Phenomenon Lasting Legacy documentary series. And there it is.
Wait, there's a show that was developed for the FX network called Powers, and Powers is a show about these guys who are members of the Powers division. What they do is they're the ones who they're sort of the police, and what they do is they police a world that is filled with superheroes. And some of these superheroes actually they're just into like mischief and petty crime and whatnot. So somebody has to police a world filled with people with superpowers, and it's this Powers division. And it was originally developed for FX Network. They passed on it, so it wound up becoming the very first show from the PlayStation Network.
No kidding.
Which is kind of interesting. So now, was the show good? You know what? I watched some of this. I thought it was pretty good, actually. It's you know what it does? It has all the superhero action stuff, which is cool, but it kind of has like that kind of hard-boiled, not film noir tone, but it kind of has like that really dark, garishly lit noirish stuff that you kind of get like on some of the fancier CW shows. So I thought it combined, two genres, the superhero genre with like the Law and Order type detective genre pretty well. I love Charlton Copley, the guy from District 9. He's fantastic. So Power Season 1, not bad. I'd be curious to see the PlayStation Network actually like develop something on their own and not just take some cast off that was already developed by a better network. But there you go. So Season 1 of Powers is on Blu-ray, and you can check that out. If you're into it, go. Also, we have, by the way, I just saw this off the pile, Mutant Planet Season 2 on the Science Channel. This is about all these crazy critters who live in Namibia and India and Borneo and Africa and Central America. It's cool stuff. Boy, that was a real right turn, wasn't it? Hyenas and foxes and other crazy critters who eat things. So it's cool. A lot of great photography in Mutant Planet Season 2. Again, we only see like, cats, dogs, and the occasional, hamster, but the world is filled with just crazy animals who just look really gorgeous or really scary and have all sorts of crazy eating habits and mating habits and whatnot. And Mutant Planet gets us into that. So, I would definitely, if you're into that, check that out. Mutant Planet Season 2.
Mutant Planet.
Season
Sweet.
2.
I think I'll look at. I always like Creepy Monkeys. You know that?
That's the name. You know what? That's the new name of my band, Creepy Monkeys.
Creepy Monkeys, because we usually you grow up watching nature documentaries, and they always show you chimpanzees and gorillas, and they always show you the primates that look normal. They don't show you the really just tweaked stuff. They don't show you that there are monkeys in jungles in parts of this earth, and like in Southeast Asia and Central America. There are monkeys that look like they come from another planet. They are the scariest, weirdest, most deformed-looking, psychotic things, and they will eat your face if you get too close.
Fish. There are fish who live like in these weird thermal vents in the bottom of the something with like these horrible teeth.
In the James Cameron zone.
Yeah. Yes, they're really out there.
I know. They're freaky. They got like the little antenna things that hang in front of their head, and you wonder how. There's no way. That is not only is that proof that evolution is wrong. It's not even proof of God. It's proof that there is some strange alien power playing a joke on us. Is what it is. It's proof of something really nefarious and malicious out there in the universe.
Oh God.
That's what it's a proof of.
You crazy.
Yeah. All right. From Mill Creek, a bunch of these TV Guide Classics collections. Which are nice little compilations, so you don't have to buy a whole series, and you get these. They kind of do the work for you, and they're fine if you just want something to look past the time and arouse some memories. Ozzie and Harriet favorite memories, 25 episodes from that classic series. I was never a fan, always found it a little bit cloying, but it's a legendary show and it's historic. And then in the early 1950s, that along with shows like I Love Lucy and the Donna Reed Show, they sort of defined what television would become in subsequent decades. So you got to give them some props. And they also have 39 classic episodes of The Adventures of Robin Hood, which was actually a television show at one point also in the 1950s. Completely fallen off of most people's radar. But it's actually not bad, to be honest. It's sort of what you would expect of a 50s television show. Feels a little bit like Daniel Boone, except with Robin Hood. It's a little bit stiff, but they make a go of it, actually, and it makes you. First thought I had was, that's interesting. Why hasn't anyone thought to do a Robin Hood TV series again? A little bit like this. I know there's a BBC show that sort of tried to do that, but nobody's really quite done it right.
It's too bad Robin Hood couldn't be played by Robin Williams.
Right.
See, that would have been a show.
And speaking of, they also give us 39 episodes of Sherlock Holmes, the complete series. It only lasted for 39 episodes. Obviously, Sherlock Holmes has a much richer television pedigree than Robin Hood. It's been done to death many, many times. But in 1954 and 1955, they were able to make a pretty good go of it. All those other shows are always American, except for Elementary, which is like the new American
Sherlock Holmes
version of it, interpretation of it. But the others are all British. And this was an American variation on it, and it wasn't bad. Ronald Howard plays Sherlock Holmes, and Howard Marion Crawford plays Dr. Watson. And some really good episodes here. It's very clever. And then lastly, there is TV Guide Classics, Television Legends. And this is more of a potpourri. They throw together a lot of stuff they throw together basically television material of Johnny Carson, Jack Benny, and Milton Berle from the Johnny Carson Show, which was a precursor to The Tonight Show, the Jack Benny Program, which is not the Jack Benny Show, and the Milton Berle Show, which is not exactly the Buick Hour. So it's sort of not their best moments, but some of their better moments. And lots of interesting guests, Dean Martin, Bob Hope, Frank Sinatra, future President Ronald Reagan, Humphrey Bogart, Bing Crosby, Jerry Lewis, Zsa Zsa Gabor. It's good stuff for people who like a little bit of classic television.
Speaking of classic television, Wade, we have two here. We have The Cosby Show, seasons 7 and 8. Obviously, the single seasons aren't selling too well, so now they're combining seasons 7 and 8.
Yeah.
I mean, really, there's no reason not to do it. It's just so random. Let's do 7 and 8. Why not 7, 8, and 9? Why not odd-numbered ones? Why not even-numbered ones? Why not just a whole damn show in one pack and get it over with? I mean, who's going to buy 3 and 4, but not
some kid who just got his allowance.
I don't know how life works anymore. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know who's going to buy this now that Cosby is a rapist. Anyway, final season of Barney.
That is Mark's opinion only. Do not sue us, please.
Anyway, hey, at least I'm not Donald Trump.
There you go.
Barney Miller, final season out on DVD. I love this show. By the final season, though, it was time to go. Most of the original cast still there, still hanging out in New York's Greenwich Village precinct. So, yeah, there you go. 8-season run. This is the last one. So if you're a completist, you cannot miss Barney Miller, the final season. Hal Linden's still around. A lot of these guys still around. God love them.
You know, the werewolf and vampire and zombie things are just getting so old. And this show, Bitten, it's enough already with like Twilight for television. This is the complete second season. And I never saw the first season, but this just feels old already. It's just the same old thing. It's the whole underworld / Twilight thing projected onto television. And it's kind of tiresome, but I guess there's a following. Otherwise, it wouldn't have made it to a second season. You get behind-the-scenes featurettes and extended scenes and stunt and gag reel stuff and a little panel from the New York Comic-Con, and I guess that's meaningful to somebody. We also have the second season of Graceland, which I'm somewhat familiar with, and it's okay. Speaking of Graceland, you saw the Sphinx in Graceland, right?
Oh yeah, I think you sathe last week. Did you not say that joke last week?
I know, but I'm still trying to reinvent it.
Reinvented? You said it the same way.
The Graceland, the Elvis. Never mind. It's not working. I'm going to throw it under the bus. Gone with that one. So anyway, it's a cop show, and it does what most cop shows do, but it does okay. 3 discs. It's decent procedural stuff. And then there is Playing House Season 1, which is a USA series that is continuing this summer. And the only way I can describe this is if you were to take, I don't know, there's no way to describe it. It's a fairly pedestrian comedy, and it's about these 2 women who basically decide to give. It's like a Kate and Allie thing. They're gonna raise this one woman's child together because her one woman husband was unfaithful. Blah blah blah. Anyway, it's not very funny, and you kind of speed through these episodes and you wonder what the point is. And I'm sure maybe at some point it'll get into something that's funny, but it needs more time to develop. So anyway, we'll give Playing House the benefit of the doubt and hope that USA can make a go of it this summer.
Oh wait, Touched by an Angel, Amazing Grace it was a 2-part episode of the show, or they called it a TV movie event, and it's about Roma Downey Jr. and she's an angel and she graces people, and Della Reese looks like she's so angelic and beautiful. God, I hated the show. All men hated this show. There was nothing to like about this show. I am sorry. Touched by an Angel, the worst. I don't even want to tell you what this is about because no one's going to rent it and no one's going to buy it. So,
all right, well then let's move on to
House of Cards. Come on, Wade, season 3. You know, I kind of
people are starting to forget this originated as a British series, a really good British series.
Well, that's true. Now
now this is the dominant. It's like The Office, right? It's becoming such an American phenomenon that the original has kind of fallen into its shadow.
Well, I was a big fan of season 1. I kind of crapped out on it after season 2. It got too ridiculous. Now with season 3, I'm kind of getting back into it. Kevin Spacey's his president, and it's you have all sorts of interesting dilemmas. The show, it's directed by a whole bunch of different people, but there's definitely a consistent tone established throughout. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of these people wind up kind of like Game of Thrones, where they wind up directing these really interesting dramas, in big screen dramas. Aneska Holland also, she was involved in the show. Love her. Anyway, so House of Cards season 3, it's available now. It's looks great, sounds great. Really like the show a lot. I'm getting back into it. I'm all on board. He's the president. And Claire wants to be U.S. ambassador to the UN, so that's part of it too. And I won't tell you what happens, but I will let you enjoy House of Cards season 3. I'm back in it.
Yeah. All right, we're going to talk about some. We're going into classic movie mode right now. Got a lot of stuff that's come in over the last few weeks, and try to go through this pretty quickly. I got some cult stuff here. No, there isn't one this week. Blue Underground has given us, the Italians, when the Italians get going on the culty stuff, not just spaghetti westerns, there's just no stopping them. The first one here is another Django film. This is Franco Nero, the original Django, along with Klaus Kinski in Man, Pride, and Vengeance. And there are a lot of Django films that have nothing to do with Django. A lot of people just thought Tarantino invented it. No, there's a whole thing. The thing that's amazing about this is this was actually shot by Vittorio Storaro. People don't realize before he did real movies like Apocalypse Now, Vittorio Storaro actually he went through the ringer just like everybody else. And it's good looking, and Luigi Bazzoni, who is otherwise a completely negligible director, does a perfectly okay job. But really the only reason you're watching this is for Franco Nero, who is just so cool. It defies comprehension. It defies the laws of nature. So otherwise, pretty straightforward Django movie, Man, Pride, and Vengeance. And then also from Blue Underground, we have a trio from legendary cult director Enzo Castellari. Enzo Castellari knows how to just crank this stuff up to 11 and really push it over the top. And it's funny because this is looking into the future to the year 2000. Which makes it hysterical looking back now. The first one is Escape from the Bronx, which obviously, in this Blu-ray DVD combo pack, collector's edition, is meant to totally riff on Escape from New York. And it is every bit as wonderfully and hilariously cheesy as you would expect, with nobody of any significance whatsoever in the cast, but some great extras. Because Castellari he just kills it. He kills it with the audio commentary. It's absolutely worth listening to. And then, as if that's not enough, we also have 1990, The Bronx Warriors, which was the original of of these films. It is the less interesting one, obviously enough. I think Escape from the Bronx is far and away the better film. But this one still has a lot going for it from the camp end of things. He also does a great commentary. And by the way, Castellari is the guy who did the original Inglourious Bastards, as long as we're on the whole Django Inglourious Bastards Quentin Tarantino remake thing, if that means anything. But none of these are particularly as good as that original one. And then I think one of the more amusing Castellari films of all time, from Blue Underground, in a Blu-ray DVD combo pack, as are all the others, is The New Barbarians. The New Barbarians takes place in the year 2019. So we're not there yet. We're still a few years away from what he expected to be his version of a weird, strange Mad Maxy kind of post-apocalyptic environment, and the story here is just bizarre and hilarious and kind of medieval. The only thing that makes this really, really entertaining is the fact that Fred Williamson is in it, and Fred Williamson makes everything awesome. So I applaud him for putting Fred Williamson in it, but otherwise none of this makes any sense, but it is truly hilarious, and the transfers are great. So Blue Underground continues to go to pick up really interesting, bizarre, culty films, and they've got a treasure trove here.
Oh, wait, a couple films from back in the day, late 80s, early 90s, that really seemed kind of like very generic-y action films, but somehow they used to crank these out in the late 80s, mid-80s, late 80s, early 90s. One is called Firebirds. This is with Nicolas Cage, Tommy Lee Jones, and Sean Young, directed by David Green. It wants to be Top Gun, but yet somehow it's not Top Gun. Anyway, so it's the whole idea is that these guys are members of the U.S. Army's elite Apache Corps. They're this airborne task force, and they fly these special planes, these special helicopters. And look, it has its moments. There's some nice aerial photography, and who doesn't love them? Some Tommy Lee Jones, because he's awesome, and Sean Young is in it too. But ultimately, I just feel like it's just warmed over Top Gun. We also have an interesting failure from Bob Rafelson called No Good Deed. Now, Bob Rafelson's the guy who directed 5 Easy Pieces and Blood and Wine, and he's Bob Rafelson. He's cool. And here he's directing a film starring Sam Jackson and Milla Jovovich. This is before Milla Jovovich became the Resident Evil temptress. This is from 2002. Sam Jackson plays a detective, and he's in the course of a bank robbery. He's kidnapped, and he's held captive by these bad guys. And with the girlfriend of the mastermind bad guy is Jovovich. So it's all about the cat and mouse thing. It's not bad. Rafelson is not really an action director in my mind, so I don't know that this is really the best use of his talents. But still, it's stylish because it's Rafelson, but ultimately this is not really a Bob Rafelson film. Then we have a movie that I kind of liked from back in the day called Old Gringo. This has a good cast. This is Jane Fonda, Gregory Peck. Okay, so right there, you're in good hands. Jimmy Smits is in it too. This is before he became like Jimmy Smits. Why? I don't know. Anyway, Jane Fonda, she's this frustrated, like lifetime single woman who decides to leave America and discover her passion in the south of the border. So it's good. It's not the sweeping love story that I was kind of hoping for, like that real English patient sweeping love story type thing. But it's pretty good. It's not bad. So, and of course Gregory Peck's in it. One of his last performances or one of his later performances. This is from '89. So it's not bad. So it's there's some good battle footage that takes place during the Mexican Revolution, and it's got that sweeping love story against that backdrop. So. Old Gringo, not bad. It got some attention back then because of the cast. So, it's not bad. Old Gringo.
All right, I'm going to hit up some of these Scream Factory double features right now, which are actually a lot of fun, and they're good transfers, and they're really smart double features from the Shout Factory Scream Factory line. The first one is Ghost House and Witchery. Both of them kind of, lower tier horror films, culty classics that are sort of barely culty classics from the late 1980s. The one that is highly recommended is Witchery, just because it pairs David Hasselhoff with Linda Blair. That alone is Oscar worthy to me. That's just brilliant. The Outing and The Godsend make for, if you haven't seen either of these, they are, how do you put this? These are also from the 1980s. The Outing is the later one from 1987, which is a genie horror film. It's the only thing that makes it interesting is it deals with the genie, because horror films don't generally deal with genies, and I find that...
Well, like genie coming out of a lamp kind of genie?
Yeah. Like
so does a guy rub his lamp and then a genie comes out?
It's a horror
That's
film.
very sexual.
Okay, never mind. The Godsend is the more interesting film from the 1980s because it's sort of a leftover Rosemary's Baby thing, that really kind of ran its course by 1980, but a few of these films were still left over. So anyway, that's kind of in that same vein peripherally. And then the last two here, I'll get to the best one. I'll save the best one for last. There's Cellar Dweller and Catacombs. You get it? Cellar, Catacombs? This is how they do these theme things?
No.
You know, it's the whole underground thing. Cellar Dweller from 1987, Catacombs from 1988. Catacombs is truly hilarious. The makeup effects are terrible. The whole concept of these catacombs underneath a monastery that have the beast of the apocalypse. It's just so silly. It's just brilliant. Absolutely wonderful. Cellar Dweller is a little bit less interesting, but it's still kind of a similar plot. And then the best of all of them is a double feature of Tentacles and Reptilicus. This is pre-CGI monster movie brilliance.
I believe they had a baby called Reptilicus.
So freaking brilliant. Reptilicus is far and away the best from 1962 when they just had no shame about these things. It is absolutely awesome, low-budget creature feature madness. It is wonderful. Garish colors, truly hilarious. Directed by Sidney Pink, who did a lot of these kind of films, and it's just hilarious. And then Tentacles is a little bit later, 1976. The only thing to really recommend this is that it has a ridiculous cast for a movie like this that includes John Huston and Shelley Winters. And you watch that and you just think, are you kidding me? What makes that even remotely possible? And moving on to some, let me. Well, Mark just left the room.
Wait, I'll be back in a minute.
Mark can't keep his hands off his new TV gizmo, which he's not going to talk to anybody about. Olive Films. Let me name some great Olive releases now that they have licensed. They got some great stuff here from, especially from the MGM and 20th Century Fox libraries. The Mean Season with Kurt Russell and Mariel Hemingway. Told a story a few weeks ago about Mariel Hemingway looking at my daughter as she was having a tantrum on the floor of a grocery store. The things that happen in Los Angeles. Anyway, the Mean Season is actually surprisingly ahead of its time. It's not a global warming film per se, but it seems to sort of foreshadow it. And it's directed very well by Philip Borsos. It's a little bit like a weather version of the China Syndrome, I guess, in some respects. Kurt Russell gives a really good performance. So does Mariel Hemingway. Great music by Lalo Schifrin, and a nice supporting performance by Richard Major, who is, I guess, he's still the president of the Screen Actors Guild. A movie that I was particularly fond of, but nobody else was, is Soul Plane, which is kind of like Airplane done hip hop style. With it's basically kind of anyway. You get the unrated and the theatrical versions here. Doesn't make a difference really. They're pretty much the same movie. Snoop Dogg is a pilot. The whole. It's like almost more like the Big Bus. Actually, we keep talking about that.
The Big Bus.
It's like Big Bus is like a big purple Soul Train plane in the sky. I thought this movie was so funny. I really did.
Sure.
No, everyone thought I was insane. They thought I was just completely losing my mind for a moment.
Well, you lose your mind every
But it's
moment
funny.
because you're Wade.
It is funny. Brian Bosworth in Stone Cold. Man, that is just the weirdest thing. Look how they try to rip off the Terminator artwork for this thing.
Yeah,
just shameless.
There was a moment when they were trying to make him into the new something.
Well, he was. You know what the thing with Bosworth was? He came out of college as this hot NFL prospect, and he was a total bust in the NFL. I mean, he was like supposed to be this amazing lineman or whatever he was, and he was a bust in the NFL. He was all style and no substance. It was all about the hair and the face and the looks and the thing. And so he made a quick exit from the NFL and parlayed that into a brief but somewhat successful career in movies. And I don't know what he's doing now, but
somewhat successful.
Yes. Anyway, too bad he couldn't hang around because he was with the Seahawks, right? And the Seahawks, went on to win a Super Bowl eventually.
He ain't no Jim Brown in terms of football people.
True. Isn't that true?
And by the way, can I just say...
Or Burt Reynolds.
Yeah. Or The Rock. I know The Rock is wrestling,
right.
but I love The Rock. I do.
True.
I do. He's cool.
I do too.
He's charming.
He's the real deal.
Yep.
Stephen Baldwin and Lawrence Fishburne in Fled. That is also now out on Blu-ray. A really good directing job by Kevin Hooks, who deserves a better film at some point soon. A couple of guys on the run movie. It's, the old exploitation thing taken to a different level. And then, by the way, his dad was Danger Man, right? Danger Man? Trouble Man.
His dad was in Star Trek 3.
Yes, he was, but he was originally Trouble Man.
No, he was in Star Trek 3.
And then Josh Brolin in...
he was the one who told Kirk he couldn't have the Enterprise, so Kirk had to go steal it.
Correct.
It's very important.
I know it's important. And then a very young.
He had a mustache. Why is no Paul Blart mustache giveaway for Hooks in Star Trek 3? He had a mustache in that movie.
I have no answers for you. A young Josh Brolin, back when nobody cared if he was in a movie, stars in Thrashin', which is a skateboard movie. Nothing special, but I'm sure it has a following. And then lastly, a movie that is widely considered one of the worst films ever made is now out on Blu-ray. And I have to say, I think everyone should own this, because The Thing with Two Heads is masterful. It is not, doesn't mean to be masterful. It's just so ridiculous. You're going to laugh from the first frame until the last, and you're going to laugh straight at it. This was produced by the wonderful Sam Markoff, who I did briefly know when we made our documentary, and had the privilege of interviewing him several times. And Sam, this just reeks of Sam. It's one of the last things that he cranked out back in 1972 before he sort of went onto a hiatus from exploitation films. The Thing with Two Heads is basically a thing that has two heads, and those two heads are Rosie Greer and Ray Milland. And why they're Rosie Greer and Ray Milland, it's not. There's not really a comment about racial harmony in 1972. I just think they could only afford Rosie Greer and Ray Milland, speaking of former football players. It's just hilarious.
Ray Milland was a former football player?
Directed by Lee Frost, who did a lot of these kind of cheesy films. It's just too funny. It's just really, really outrageously bizarre. It's considered one of the worst films ever made, and it probably is, but it's so entertaining.
It's very mystery. It's ripe for Mystery Science 3000 treatment.
All right, Mark, let's talk about some of these DVD-R releases from Sony. Sony has their own DVD-R line. They don't package it differently, so they're going to look the same when you get them, but these are MODs, and they're films that have been out previously. The Man Without a Past is a really cool Aki Kaurismäki film. It's his strange, deadpan sense of humor. It's about a guy with amnesia and his very strange kind of mythical way of journey to try to put his life back together again, and it's kind of sweet and weird all at the same time. The Kaurismäki brothers do weird. They're sort of like Finland's answer to David Lynch, and this is one of his better films. It won some awards at various festivals, and if you haven't seen any Aki Kaurismäki films, I would say The Man Without a Past is one of the better ways to begin your exposure to it. And likewise, Kikujiro, if you're not a Takeshi Kitano fan, if you don't like all of his violent gangster movie stuff,
he's awesome.
He is awesome. I love all the violent stuff, but if you're not into that, you're going to want to see Kikujiro, which is him in a completely different mode, and it is wonderful. It is. This was a big deal at Cannes the year that it was released, and it is just a really, really sweet, humanistic story in which he's not playing some kind of a psycho gangster. He's playing a guy who befriends this sweet little 9-year-old kid who's looking for the mom that he never knew, and it's the usual thing, right? It's the crusty old guy and the sweet little kid, and they each learn something from each other, and he softens the old guy's heart, and the old guy helps him kind of grow up and come of age. But it's one of the best films I've ever seen based on that premise, and it's just absolutely wonderful. It's just a sweet Japanese road trip done with Takeshi Kitano's unique style, and no explosions, no guns, no gangsters.
Well, then forget it. Oh wait, here's an interesting movie that has a great idea that might be ripe for a remake. Although I think the remake would be a really strident, potentially unfunny, over-the-top film. Anyway, The Last Supper is from 1996, and it's about a group of these grad school liberals, right? There's Cameron Diaz and Annabeth Gish, and Courtney B. Vance is one of them. And so there are these 5 liberals, and they get together for this dinner, and of course all they're talking about is liberal this and liberal that, how much they love being liberal, and all the social things that liberals believe. And into this situation comes this redneck trucker. And the redneck trucker has them really kind of looking at their liberal beliefs and what, how this trucker is sort of making them rethink their beliefs and what they would do to him if they could, because he's like a redneck and he's obviously just very, very, deep South conservative. And put it this way, it's the type of film where if you made it today, it would be really over the top, strident. But now, in 1996, when like Fox News was just starting up and whatnot, and you get something a little tamer that kind of exhausts its one-note idea pretty quickly. It has some pretty decent Visually, it's shot pretty well by Stacy Title, who I don't know that Stacy Title has done anything since. But anyway, so it's got a lot of dark humor. It's got a great premise. It's a very cool satirical way to approach political debate in this country. However, I have a feeling that you might watch this and go, cool idea, but today's political climate just does not support this version of this premise. But it's definitely a nice shot. The Last Supper. Also, What Planet Are You From? Got a lot of attention. Because it was directed by Mike Nichols.
You know, the vibrating, the whole vibrating gag in this thing still slays me.
It's funny.
And I know it shouldn't, but it does.
No, it's funny. It's got a great cast: Gary Shandling, Annette Bening, Greg Kinnear, Ben Kingsley, John Goodman, and Whatever Happened to You, Linda Fiorentino. They're all in this. It's about this alien played by Gary Shandling who has been sent to Earth to procreate, and so he has to understand women. So really, it's a story of my life because I feel like I'm from another planet trying to understand women. Anyway, it's funny. I think this is a funny movie.
It is.
But it's sort of like midnight. It's sort of like mid-90s funny.
Yeah, well, that's Gary. Everything Gary Shandling is mid-90s funny. That's his whole. That's his whole vibe.
Now,
mid-90s guy.
Now, one movie. Oh, is it you?
Huh?
Can I do this?
Let me get this out of the way real quickly. Me Without You is out again. This was out previously, and it went out of print, and a lot of people panicked because it's kind of a film that didn't do well when it was initially released. But it developed kind of a following. It's called Me Without You. Michelle Williams and Anna Friel, who was on the recently canceled American Odyssey, and directed by Sandra Goldbacher, who previously did a film that I was actually very, very fond of called The Governess with the what's her name?
Helen Mirren.
No. Never mind. Triangular face, British actress, surfs a lot.
Triangle Face Lady.
Not gonna think. I'm drawing.
Her name is in Triangle Face Lady.
No.
Damn.
Oh,
Who are you talking about? Is she old or young?
Young. Anyway,
Emily Blunt.
No. Forget it. I'll. The Governess. Look up The Governess.
If I know who this person is, I'll be very upset.
You do know who it is. I just can't. I'm not pulling her name up because
I'm
looking
at. Is that a show? The Governess.
The Governess. It's a movie.
Movie.
Anyway, Michelle Williams and Anna Friel in a film that takes place in the London suburbs in 1970s, and
I know who it is. I'm not going to tell you. I'll give you her initials.
Yeah.
MD.
Minnie Driver. Thank you. Thank you. Could not place Minnie Driver's name to save my life. That's how old I'm getting. Anyway, so Sandra Goldbacher did The Governess with Minnie Driver, which is a wonderful film. And then this was her follow-up, and it didn't quite catch fire, but it has kind of over time grown a following. Anyway, Anna Friel, Michelle Williams, friends in London in the 1970s, all the way into the 2000s. As their lives change and they grow up, and it's two friends over this incredibly long period of time, and it's very true to life. It's just it never rushes, even though it covers a big span of time, and it's just a solid film. And I'm surprised that Goldbacher hasn't been able to sort of parlay that into something bigger and meatier. But it's the plague of being a female director. If she'd been a guy making this movie, she'd be directing Ant-Man 5 by now or something. So anyway, that's worth checking out.
Are you seeing Ant-Man next week? I'm seeing it.
Probably not, but we'll see.
I'm just wondering whether this is the one that'll suck, because someday a Marvel movie will suck.
It will, and it'll
blow hard. It's just inevitable.
I got to focus on Minions and a bunch of other stuff because I'm on NPR.
Wait, did you see Minions? I'm passing on that.
Not yet, but I have to. I have to go see it for radio. So
anyway, wait. Let me tell you something. There's a movie that I know you're going to say, "Oh, I don't want to see that." It stars a bunch of old people. You know what? The Sunshine Boys is super. It's just great. It's so funny and sensitive and lovable, and it's just great.
Another great Warner Archive Blu-ray release. This one.
Love this movie. This is George Burns and Walter Matthau. They play Lewis and Clark, this old team from vaudeville who have not talked for years. And they decide to get back together for a TV special, and it's all about them trying to get over their differences and their petty arguments to make this TV special a winner. And it's great. George Burns, who had not done a film for like 35 years, won an Oscar for this. And Matthau, I think, was also nominated. He was nominated for an Oscar for this. And it's directed by Herbert Ross, who, he's not like a comedy director. He's very more of a sensitive director, but the script is so fun. Neil Simon And I just think Sunshine Boys is terrific. It's based on the Neil Simon play. Cannot recommend this enough. It is really cool. I know you're thinking, oh, it's old people. It'll be stupid. No, man, this is funny stuff. Really good. And George Burns, George Burns is kind of forgotten now, but he was a classic comedian who lived to be over 100, and he was active for pretty much 99 of those years, right? I mean, he was active well into his 90s.
He's like a kid in vaudeville.
In fact, I remember, this is a stupid story, and this has nothing to do with George Burns per se, but I remember the very first checking account I ever got was for Brentwood Savings and Loan. And the spokesperson for Brentwood Savings and Loan was George Burns.
Ooh, good call.
And he would have his little cigar. He goes, "You could put your money in a savings and loan."
I remember that.
You do not.
I do remember that. I remember all those old commercials. Kidding me?
I'll look that up.
I was glued to the television when I was a kid.
Look that up right now.
I
George
didn't
Burns,
go
Brentwood
outside.
Savings and Loan.
When I was 13, I was introduced to sunlight, and I thought it was this strange alien thing, and I ran back screaming into the house. I didn't know what it was.
See if I can find
Rescue
that on
Me
YouTube.
Television. All right, a bunch of other Warner Archive collection releases that are all great. All of these are just little diamonds that have just been unearthed, and the people at Warner Archive are just they're in the minds of the archive, and they're finding these really cool little movies. This is great. This is David McCallum in 3 Bites of the Apple, which also features, among other great supporting performances, Harvey Korman, who just makes every movie better that he's in. And David McCallum, of course, oftentimes associated with The Man from U.N.C.L.E., which looks like it's being made into an absolutely terrible feature film. I hope I'm wrong, but the trailer does not look great. Doesn't look anything close to what the TV series was. But this is just the whole concept here is really, really fun. David McCallum basically being an Englishman who wins big time at a casino on the French Riviera, and suddenly attracts the attentions of the gorgeous Sylvia Koskina. And at that point, this thing becomes just one of these really great kind of Blake Edwards-y kind of romantic thrillers. It's really fun. We also have George Maharis and Robert Morse in Quick Before It Melts, which is
Quick Before It Melts.
Quick Before It Melts.
Hey.
Which is a really just a super cool period comedy. It wasn't a period at the time, but if you love the whole groovy 50s 60s scene, this just perfectly captures it. Directed by the Oscar-winning director Delbert Mann, who did Marty. And Delbert Mann's other films never quite came to the level of Marty, but they're all really fun and they're all really smart. Right up to his very last one, which was about the balloon crossing from East Germany. Really, Delbert Mann is one of those horribly unheralded directors. Anyway, this is a sharp film. We also have Bob Hope and the Global Girls in a Global Affair. That's a little bit of a marketing thing there. This is one of the lesser-known Bob Hope movies, but pretty much anything that Bob Hope is in is okay by me. Bob Hope just always makes me laugh. We've got to kind of wrap things out because we're running out of time. Five Came Back is an interesting film with a great cast. It includes John Carradine and Lucille Ball. Directed by John Farrow, who is, Mark, you know who John Farrow is?
That's Will Ferrell's brother.
No, he's Farrow, F-A-R-R.
Mia Farrow's brother.
Mia Farrow's dad. In any case, this is kind of a Gilligan's Island-y thing. They're a bunch of people who find themselves stranded in the jungle. And, John Farrow was a real workman-like director. He wasn't exactly, A grade, but he always did a really, really good job. And among other interesting anecdotes, this thing was co-written by Dalton Trumbo, who seemed to get his fingers involved in just about anything that was troubled at some point. One of the other things that was a big deal in the 50s and 60s was movies that had flying themes, because suddenly everybody could fly. Flying became affordable, so it wasn't you could get from Europe to the U.S. without hopping onto a boat and without paying an arm and a leg to get on a plane. And so you get a lot of sort of these Pan Am type themed movies, and one of them is Come Fly With Me. Which is just absolutely delightful.
Come fly.
I mean, Mark, look at the artwork. The with the waitress.
Yeah, you can't do that today.
No, you can't do that. The whole stewardess thing. It's just it's fabulous. Anyway, this is a great comedy, and wonderful performances from Dolores Hart, Pamela Tiffin, and Lois Nettleton as stewardesses. It is just really, really fun. Written by William Roberts and directed by Henry Levin, who was another really great workmanlike studio guy. That's a nice little blast from the past. Betty Davis is sensational in Satan Metal Lady, which is one of those not top-tier noir, but it's sort of middling noir, and it basically tells the same story that was later told to much greater effect in The Maltese Falcon. So it's of interest to people who are fans primarily of The Maltese Falcon, because you get to see how the story changes and how it gets honed and so forth and so on. So that's of use. And then lastly, the jewel of the archive, the Warner Archive releases this week, is the Eddie Cantor 4-film collection, part of the Samuel Goldwyn Classics line, which includes Palmy Days, The Kid from Spain, Roman Scandals, and Strike Me Pink. Eddie Cantor is due and ripe for rediscovery, and these are all really great films from the early to mid-1930s when he was all the rage. And my favorite here is The Kid from Spain. Eddie Cantor as a bullfighter is just one of the funniest things you will ever see. It is absolutely genius. And also worth checking out is Strike Me Pink, because it has Ethel Merman in it, and Ethel Merman's great in absolutely everything that she does. All right, Mark.
Is there more?
No, I think that's it. We're good. Is there any?
Yes. Wait. Hang on. I found.
I know you found something you want to share.
Well,
with
no. I found one of the George Burns Brentwood Savings and Loans commercials.
Oh, sweet.
So hang on for a second. You ready?
Okay,
I'm going
I'm
to play it right now.
Do it. Rock it.
So long, sweetheart. That's Louise, my bank teller. I just withdrew from the bank. She's so upset she refused to validate my parking. What's a man to do? Brentwood has a service called the interest checking account. So now I can do both, my checking and saving at Brentwood. That's convenient. They also pay me interest on my checking account. Sweetheart, paid me compliments. Now Brentwood's paying me interest.
Now I have to say,
that's pretty great.
Okay, that's not the one where he sings, "You can put your money in a savings and loan," and whatnot and so forth. By the way, I have to give a shout out to my father, who I wanted my own checking account, and Brentwood Savings was right across the street from Brentwood Elementary School on San Vicente Boulevard, and I only had $92 to my name. I had $92. That was it. So I really wanted $100. It seemed like a nice round number.
Sure.
It seemed like the type of number that rich people have, $100.
Yeah.
So I asked my dad for $8 so that I can round it, get up to $100 for my first checking account.
Pretty great.
He gave it to me.
Nice.
Sweet. That's what daddies do.
That is what dads do.
So there's George Burns.
You're just making me feel guilty. Now you're making me think, what kind of a dad am I going to be? Am I going to part with my hard-earned money? And
hell no.
No, probably not. No. Go out, sweep some floors in a bank at night or something. That's what you do. And I mean, look, she'll be 3 next year. She'll be old enough to go get a job, right?
Damn right.
Or is that like in a sausage factory, or maybe a garment factory, right?
Here's what she should do. She should have an overnight job cleaning all the equipment at a slaughterhouse. So
Excellent.
she walks around at the slaughterhouse with brooms and however they clean the guts, putting them like in the grills and the sluices that
That's a
make
good
all
idea.
the guts and blood go out the door.
Develop a good work ethic.
That's
what we'll do. I like that. No, I do. I like that a lot.
She'll have the overnight shift cleaning a slaughterhouse.
So, like, we'll get that hooked up. So as soon as she turns 3, we'll have her on that, because she's pretty good with a broom already.